Hey guys, this is gonna be a guide when it comes to how to play the poison lineup in version 3.4, consisting of Willow, Tuesday, Six and Sotheby. Please keep in mind that this roster is incomplete because only in the very next version, version 3.5, will we be getting the Euphoria update for Tuesday. And there is another poison character gonna be released in form of Ramona. So in version 3.4, this poison lineup is a little bit on the weaker side of things, especially because Tuesday doesn't have a Euphoria update yet and therefore succumbs to pressure very easily. Another big issue that plays into this is that we don't have a viable sustain character yet for this team, so you would like to wing it when it comes to you using a viable sustain like Marsha, Kiparina, Robushka, Fatutu, these kind of things. But all of those sustains are busy in other teams. They don't want to be slotted into this poison lineup. And so yeah, the point is wait until you really and truly play this poison lineup until version 3.5 for the Tuesday Euphoria at the very least. But let's take a look at the rotations and let me explain how to play this team when we are jumping into battle. So, the very most important turns are actually turn number 1 and turn number 2. After that, it is just gonna be a rotation on repeat, so to speak. Okay, so what are you gonna do in the first 2 rounds is you trying to accumulate Moxie for all 3 characters simultaneously, being Willow, Tuesday and Six. The very first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna use the debuff incantation for Tuesday called In Mother's Arms to apply the debuffs. Then you're gonna apply additional debuffs by using the incantation number 2 from the character Six. Here you wanna spread poison, preferably you wanna do this with Tuesday. If you wouldn't have this incantation at your disposal, you would use Sotheby's debuff incantation instead. But every single time you can spread poison with Tuesday, you do it with Tuesday and not someone else. Additionally, it is super important that every single turn you convert the poison that you spread into a different kind of debuff called Hexbane. You do this by using the incantation number 1 from Willow, the one that you see right here on your screen. It is very important to do this every single turn, because once you have unlocked your ultimate, which will in most cases be turn 3, you will accumulate an additional Moxie for Willow for every 2 Hexbane stacks onto your opponent. And you need to steadily have an income of additional Moxie for Willow to keep her channeling alive. I think everyone is aware at this point how the channeling for Willow exactly works. If not, let me explain that really quick. Once you start channeling, the very first turn no Moxie is deducted, and then it starts deducting Moxie from round 2 and onwards. On round 2, 1 Moxie is deducted. Round 3, 2 Moxie will be deducted, and so on and so forth. Every consecutive turn plus 1 additional Moxie is deducted, and that's why you need an influx of Moxie as much as possible so that you can keep that channeling alive. Why would you want to keep the channel alive? That is because for every consecutive turn your Hexbane stacks, they will tick for more and more damage the longer you keep that channel alive. Okay, so now you can see that on round number 2 you don't have the ultimate for Willow ready yet, but you want to accomplish it this turn. And you want to get the ultimate ready for 6 as well, so that you can use all 3 ultimates from Willow, Tuesday and 6 all in the very same turn. It is a little bit dependent on RNG, how much Moxie you will accumulate with Tuesday. In most cases, like 60-70% of the cases, you will sit with 4 Moxie on Tuesday on round 2 as well. Keep that in mind. So, from now on, the very first thing that you always gonna check is, hey, do I have the incantation with Willow which allows me to convert the poison stacks on my opponent into a stack of Hexbane. You can see we don't have that, and that's why we play the unfinished tune, to always have that ready every single turn. Okay, on round 2 is also where you start buffing Willow with the character 6. Unfortunately here, and yeah, you see like the RNG screws this team up like absolute crazy. That is because the team is not fully ready yet. Normally we want to use the incantation discipline with the character 6 here in this turn, but we don't have it at our disposal. So we're gonna debuff with Willow, we're gonna spread poison with Willow, we're gonna buff with Tuesday, excuse me. Then we're gonna buff Willow and we convert the poison stacks into a Hexbane. And now, on the consecutive turn, we will have all 3 ultimates unlocked. I hope. In this case, yeah, it does. Okay, it works. Even though I didn't have the correct incantations ready with a 6, it still worked, and he still has enough Moxie because he accumulates his Moxie very fast. Every turn he gets like 2 Moxie. That is so strong. You don't need to play him actively, but you want to anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Anyways, now we want to start using all of our ultimates. We gonna establish the array for Tuesday first, because her debuffs are still active. But you notice, right? What did I just tell you last turn? Is that the first thing that you do every single time is to check if you have the incantation for Willow that converts poison into Hexbane. You don't have that, you use your unfinished tune to accumulate that whenever possible, right? You know about RNG. And now we're gonna start. We deploy the array for Tuesday that makes poison be able to crit. Now we would like to spread poison. We can't do that though, because RNG is like heavily, insanely screwing me up here. I played this team a bunch, I tested everything out, it was never that bad, you know? Still a good showcase, because when we have to adapt, yeah, you get a little bit of a deeper look into how this team is actually played. So, we can't spread poison this turn, which is absolutely ridiculous, but we have a little bit of an out here, and we just gonna use the ultimate for 6, which will inflict 2 random debuffs onto all of our opponents before he actually casts that. Then we're gonna start the channel with Willow by using her ultimate, and you guessed it, we convert the poison that we have by default into a Hexbane. And now starts the repeat, you know? You're gonna every single turn do the same stuff. You're gonna buff Willow, you're gonna spread poison, and you're gonna convert the poison. The conversion of the poison is the very most important thing of them all. You're gonna spread the poison and you're gonna convert the poison, because again, now that we are channeling, our Hexbane starts to really do insane damage. And for every 2 stacks of Hexbane afflicted, we accumulate 1 additional Moxie at the end of the round for Willow. And you are aware of why we need that Moxie, because we want to and we need to keep our channel through our ultimate alive at all cost. So yeah, we gonna buff Willow. We gonna want to spread poison, but again, we haven't. Okay, at least we have the one for Sotheby this turn. Now we would want to convert the poison into a stack of Hex Bane. Now that we are channeling, the other incantation for Willow joins the fray here, called Hex Gratitude. You would also like to use this incantation here every single turn, but keep in mind, you buff first, you spread poison, you convert poison, and then you trigger the poison, make it deplete with this incantation right here. Here, you resolve the poison, but the poison doesn't go away with this incantation, and this includes the Hex Bane as well. So very, very overpowered. And, you guessed it, it increases our Moxie by an additional +1 for Willow. So from this turn onwards, you would want to, best case scenario is use both incantations every single turn, if possible, with Willow to accumulate the additional Moxie. You would also need to use Tuesday a lot, keep her debuffs alive, keep spreading poison with her, to accumulate Moxie for her as well, because you do not want her array to ever run out, and you always want to be able to make your Hex Bane stacks with Willow crit, and you need the Tuesday Euphoria update next version, and you need enough Moxie with her in this version 3.4 here as well, so use her actively. And that's gonna be about it. We can now take a look into the Psychubes and the resonances for all of the 4 characters in our lineups. Let's talk about the Psychubes for every character first. Starting off with our main DPS, Willow. She uses her signature Psychube called Offbeat Strides. It gives us a flat attack increase. We want to have as much attack stat as possible to make our poison tick more and more and more. Poison ticks based upon how high your attack stat is for the character that inflicted the poison. Keep that in mind for our resonance later. It will make much more sense once you know that fact. What this Psychube does is, let's read it together. When entering a battle, gain 1 Moxie. For each point of Moxie the carrier consumes, we consume a lot of Moxie every single turn because of our channeling with our ultimate. Keep that in mind. We gain Genesis damage dealt, which that is the damage that poison does, by plus 0.4% and damage taken minus 0.4, stacking up to 25 times. At the end of the round, if the carrier is in a channel status, the carrier gains poison damage dealt plus 2%, that stacks up to 5 times. This effect lasts 3 rounds. And that is gonna be the best in slot Psychube for the character Willow. Moving on to Tuesday, she also uses her signature Psychube called And the Might Says. It gives us critical hit rate, flat, and what it does is, way more important, the array deployed by the carrier grants poison damage dealt plus 8% to all allies and an additional poison damage dealt plus 8% to the carrier. And this effect will never be removed because our array will never run out. We will take good care of that. Now, for the character 6, it is a little bit more interesting because he doesn't have a true best in slot Psychube. I use, personally, Balance Please, because it gives me ultimate might, which I value more than anything else on the character 6. And additionally, when the carrier attacks, if they do not have an afflatus advantage over the enemy, damage dealt plus 6%. That's gonna be about it. Not like truly crushing it, right? That's why no Psychube in this game is truly crushing it for 6. This one here is, yeah, one of my favorites. I don't really care. There are like 2 to 3 Psychubes that are the best, and you can, I will show you them and you will decide for yourself which one you take. This one here is very, very good because this 6% damage dealt is permanent and always guaranteed, because with a character from the intelligence of Afflatus, we will almost never have the Afflatus advantage anyways, so that is very, very beneficial. Another Psychube that I want to point out as being very, very good for the character 6 is Long Night Talk, because it gives us incantation mind, which makes us deal more damage whenever we inflict our debuffs, and when the carrier has 2 or more buffs on him, damage dealt +8 when attacking. When the carrier uses a buff incantation, gain +2 attack, and this can stack up to 2 times. We do exactly what is described here in this description to make very, very good use of these beneficial effects. And that's gonna be about it for the Psychubes for the character 6. Sotheby, uses the usual healing Psychubes, let me say it like that. My personal favorite is still that Inquisitive Deer, healing done +18%, and when the carrier casts the basic incantation debuff, Sotheby does this because pretty much the only thing we do actively with Sotheby is cast that debuff incantation to spread the poison. So we get the heal, and every time we spread poison now, thanks to this Psychube, we heal the ally with the lowest HP percentage. That, to me, is the perfect Psychube for the character Sotheby. So now let's move on to the resonances for each and every character. For our main DPS Willow, we're gonna use a resonance that focuses primarily on increasing our attack stat as much as possible, but we also want to take care of a little bit of critical hit rate, because remember, our poison can actually crit. Since we don't have access with Willow to the special piece, let me call it like that, Hyper, we're gonna use Equibalance instead, because it gives us a very well-rounded special piece for our resonance. I'm gonna leave a code for this exact resonance pattern in the description down below. Moving on to Tuesday, that is gonna be the exact same story as it is for Willow. Those two are pretty much the same character. There's a difference here for Tuesday, because Tuesday actually gets access to the Hyper special piece. That increases our attack stat by more than any other piece in this game would, and that's why it's the best for any poison character in the game, so we're gonna use that for Tuesday. If you want to use the exact same resonance pattern as I do, link in the description down below. And for 6, it's with every single character that inflicts poison, you're gonna increase your attack stat as much as possible, and since we play the character together with Tuesday, we take care of a little bit of critical hit rate. For the character 6, you're gonna use the special piece Elucidation for the most amount of ultimate might inbound, combined with a lot of attack stat increase and a little bit of critical hit rate sprinkled on top. Now Tuesday is completely different. No, I'm just kidding, she's not. Just let me tell you about the special piece here called Equibalance, and other than that, attack stat increases, a little bit of critical hit rate, as every single poison character in the game does. There we go, link in the description. Portraits for the characters, there are only 2 characters with Willow and Poison where the portraits would matter, and for both of them it is the exact same case. Portraits number 1 and 2 are pretty mediocre, and you wouldn't say that the investment here would be any worth it. The true power spike is at portrait number 3 and portrait number 5, because both of these portraits, they make it happen that you can convert more poison stacks into Hexbane stacks. That makes you way faster, that makes you accumulate more Moxie quicker, and so on and so forth. So portrait number 3 is the recommended amount of portraits where you should stop, and that is the biggest power spike for the character Willow. And Tuesday has the exact same power spikes as Willow has, Because what is Tuesday mainly about? Yeah, it's her ultimate making poison crit, true. But also, her secondary job is to spread the poison. And with portrait number 3 and portrait number 5, we inflict additional instances of poison, right? Instead of 2 poison, we inflict 3. And with portrait number 5, we would inflict 4 instead of 2. You know what I mean? And that's why those are the big power spikes for Tuesday and Willow respectively. The other 2 characters with 6 and Sotheby, their portraits don't matter. Don't worry about them. If you get portraits for the poison lineup, do this for Willow first, and after that go for Tuesday. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope this was fun and informative. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.